Thanks for joining us here for our second episode back here. Good teams win, great teams cover in the off-season. We're looking at free agency part 2. We're going to look at the moves that have been made in the second wave of free agency and also talk through our winners and losers from free agency so far. There's been a lot going on and the league has only been reopened for a matter of days. Plenty to talk through. I, as always, am joined by Byron and Joe. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Good to be back. Feels like we're getting in a groove.
Yeah, getting in there again. Yeah, loving it.
Yeah.
And my only downside at the minute is I just realised how long it is till the NFL draft. Feels like we've got all that information pumped out us in 7 days, and now it's like 6 weeks till the draft.
Yeah. We've got a lot of episodes to fill.
Yeah. And especially like free agency, because I feel like all the big things happened last week, but there's been a few interesting and it's been a fun last few days since we did the last podcast. It's been much more of an interesting free agency than it has in certain other years.
Yeah, that's a good shout. And yeah, lots going on. And actually, the first thing we'll talk about, isn't actually free agency related. It's retirement related. And Aaron Donald has retired after 10 seasons in the NFL. He's flirted with it before. Seems to be kind of every offseason the last, since the Rams won the Super Bowl back in 21. We've had Aaron Donald thinking about retiring. He's not sure about whether he's coming back. And this time he's followed through on retiring. And Aaron Donald in the NFL is no more, which is a shame, I think, really, because just certainly from a defensive perspective, been one of the best players on the defensive side of the ball consistently. And just, an incredible difference maker and an absolute beast for the Rams. And I'm just sad to see him go.
Yeah, genuine all-time great. All Pro Bowler every single year in the league. Him and Barry Sanders, the only two who played a decade and had that honor. And bad news for sad news, I guess, more than bad news maybe for the NFL. Sad and bad news for the Rams, but good news for a certain group. In his leaving post, I think it said quarterbacks rejoice, which, we all remember that Geno Smith clip from last season, I believe it was, with that, oh my God! As Aaron Donald just pushed right through the line. So, I think quarterbacks are going to be happy, but everyone else, definitely a tinge of sadness, but, good for him going out on top, going out with a Super Bowl ring, going out with his health, his wealth. Exactly how you would dream a career up, I think, Aaron Donald.
Yeah, should we just reel off the accolades before, as we get into a bit more detail with him? But so Super Bowl champion, one-time Super Bowl champion of the Rams in 2021, 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 17, 18, and 2020, NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2014, 8-time first-team All-Pro, all the years between 2015 and 2021 and 2023, 10-time Pro Bowler, as you mentioned, Byron, in the NFL 2010 All-Decade Team. Bearing in mind he didn't start till 2014. Just absolutely incredible.
Not so much on his career accolades, but a funny thing came out this week as well of revisiting his draft profile. I don't know if you've seen this. So this was from Nolan Nawrocki, who done some scouting for the Raiders the last few years, who graded him as a round 4 to 5 draft projection. Despite him going off the board at 10 overall, I believe he ended up going. Was it a little late? Was he 13 overall?
13, yeah.
Because I think it was Ebron who went 10 overall, in fact. But it was just hilarious to read through this draft profile. And it was basically like, a lot of the stuff that he does is good, but like his size and his speed and his build is maxed out already. I'm not sure that was quite true. And around 4 to 5 talent.
Might explain why the Raiders, the players they pick in the first round is not going so well when you've got people in the
this guy was doing this NFL.com 10 years ago, and somehow he's up until I think it was 2019 through 2022 he was employed by the Raiders as a scout. And you look at what the Raiders did 2019 through 2022 and you're like, this guy's probably just calling the shots. I've never seen this before, and I found it absolutely hilarious to look at. If you want to have a read, it's just search Aaron Donald NFL.com player profile or draft profile, something like that, and you'll find it. It's quite a read.
Joey's obviously been a big part of your division, the NFC West. What's it been like watching your offensive line come up against Aaron Donald for these past 10 years?
Well, it's not been great. I don't think. I think most teams, like especially, I know Russell Wilson. I think he's the most sacked by Aaron Donald by a mile. So it's just like you mentioned, all the accolades, and I think he's. Well, I can remember like one of two players, especially on the defense, who you can say the big games. He has the winning moments, like he did in the Super Bowl. I think like he did a few times against the 49ers, especially that playoffs where he just destroyed, the inside of the O-line and just made a huge difference. And I think that's just what's the most impressive is that he does as a defensive tackle most of the time, where you are going to be doubled most of the time or tripled with all the photos come out where there's teams where there's 3 or 4 players are literally just blocking him off in order to try and protect their quarterback, which I don't think there's been many players, what I can think of, have done that. And he's probably the best defensive players within since I started watching the NFL. I know there's been, JJ Watt and a few others, but it's normally edge guys who gets, a lot of sacks and a lot of the praise. But I think Aaron Donald as a whole is the consistency and like we mentioned with the 8 All Pros and all of that. It's he said it's sad for him to go. It's he still feel like even last year he didn't feel like he dropped off or he was the shell of a player. But like Byron said, he's probably the best time to go, and he's won that Super Bowl. He's got that ring. So what else is him to do? But live the rest of his there in LA and possibly a movie star. It's been suggested. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, best of luck to Aaron Donald. And I watched the NFL quickly cut together the compilation video, career highlights or Aaron Donald's best plays, and it's just scary at times. Just as you mentioned, the 3 and 4, triple team, quadruple team at times. I'm really interested for the Rams what they do now because you don't have that on your side anymore. I know so we saw the rookie have a really good season last year next to Aaron Donald. Maybe the Rams tried to load up on the defensive line and edge just to be able to kind of get some more difference makers in there. You'll never replace him, of course, but maybe you can just get 2 or 3 guys. They're about to get a lot younger anyway, the LA Rams, with the amount of draft picks they've got and Donald retiring and stuff like that. So get some.
It does seem like it's a good DT draft as well, especially in the range the Rams are picking. Maybe not in the top 15, but the second half of the first round, it seems like a lot of good DT options. So then none of them are going to be Aaron Donald, obviously, but like you say, it might just have to replace with quantity rather than because you're not replacing Aaron Donald unless you can get one in the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, crazy. So that's the retirements to Aaron Donald. Joe, you're going to lead the way for us, but before you do, just a reminder of a couple of bits of business that I forgot to take care of at the start. As always, give us a follow on Spotify, Good Teams and Great Teams cover. You'll be notified of new episodes when they're dropped. Also, give us a follow on our YouTube, Twitter /X, Instagram, and TikTok channels. We'll get some more clips going on the TikTok. It's been quiet. There's no games for Charlie to pick, but you can follow us on all those channels at GTW_GTC. Unless Byron Charlie wants to make some March Madness picks. The tournament starts on Thursday.
Oh, we'll see, maybe, actually. Yeah, he's very much off IR and he's back to full strength, barking away. And he might need to get on March Madness because he's got some new special dog food that costs a ton. So, he might need to up his game next year because betting 500 was fine. But, this new dog food is from prescription and it's mega expensive. So, I don't know where he is right now. But, if he could start doing some deep dives into basketball, I'd probably appreciate it, Charlie.
Well, you will see. I will be all over March Madness, as is been my want for the last couple of years. So you'll see my March Madness picks all over our Good Teams and Great Teams cover Twitter /X account. We'll see if we can have a good tournament. We did last year. Good tournament, so we shall see. And the other bit of business is we've had the pleasure of announcing a new partnership last week on our first episode of the new year with the guys at First Down Sports Apparel out in Bury in Manchester. Vintage and modern sportswear resellers covering a range of sports, loads of NFL jerseys, NFL team gear and other sports as well. So check them out over on Instagram at First Down Sports Apparel. They're uploading new items almost on a daily basis now. And you can get yourself 10% off if you message them our special code on the Vinted page. You'll have your item. Just send them a message saying that you're interested. You'll get your discount. Their code is UKGTW. And you'll get yourself 10% off. So save some money while you're at it and give the guys a follow, and you'll get some great gear. Joe, over to you.
Cheers, Bob. Cool. So we'll start with the quarterbacks as usual. And I think this is why this year's been a bit more interesting, because it feels like there's been some good quarterbacks being available and, not so good quarterbacks being traded around all the league. And we'll start with the biggest one what's happened the last few days, and fairly surprising, is Justin Fields gets traded to the Steelers for 2025 6th round pick, which goes to a 4th rounder if Fields plays 51% of the snaps, which right now he's currently the backup. So yeah, guys, what do you think of this? I think it's, from my point of view, I think the difference between what everyone thought Fields was compared to what GMs and inside the building felt what Justin Fields was, it goes completely off. So yeah, what do you think?
I do still find it perplexing, because again, I'm not saying Justin Fields is a top 20 quarterback in the league, but I think there might be some GMs who this time next year or in a couple of years might be kicking themselves a little at not taking a chance on it for what you had to give up to get him. I mean, a 4th round pick, even without conditions, I think it would probably be a smash for me if I was most coaches who don't have a set answer. Denver Broncos Sean Payton couldn't work something out with Justin Fields. It seems very perplexing to me. I've read or heard Diana Rossini was talking on the Athletic pod this week about how the Bears handled it so badly by essentially saying they were trading Justin Fields and giving him up, so no one was compelled to give anything up to get him, which I do understand. And the Bears have done right by Justin Fields by sending him somewhere he wanted to go, which I think, in a human aspect, is good of them. I don't think they were going to get a 3rd round pick, though. I don't think they'd have been that kind to him. I think it was probably they were even getting a 5th or a 6th, or a better 6th they might have thought. I don't think they gave up any kind of real draft capital to send him somewhere he wanted to go. So I just find it tough to really weigh up what we see and what people have been willing to give up for him. Again, I'm not saying he's a top 20 quarterback, but the tools are there. I think the big thing is his willingness to eat sacks. He just doesn't get the ball out quickly enough, but can that be overcome? I would suggest probably. And again, I would pay the price to try and find out, because everything else is so workable around him. I don't want to keep rambling. Paul, have you got...
Yeah. No, I mean, from a Steelers perspective, it's a great move. I think, you've got Russell Wilson in, you know what you're going to get from Russ for a year. You've got a year to work out Fields, and then you've got you've got the chance then to go, well, if we like what we've seen in Fields, he gets to crack in 25 as the starter, and we can find a plan B then. So moving that can down the road. I don't think we'll see him too much. And I think probably the reluctance from others is reluctance from teams in the NFL to make a move earlier for him. It's been a combination of, I agree with you, what you've just said there around Chicago playing it quite badly, being very vocal on the fact that actually, they're sort of looking to trade him. You hold all the cards, the draft was running through you. And you just, and I get whether that was from, the human aspects of trying to do the right thing by Justin Fields, what have you. I think it was just too strong a position to kind of flimsily give it up. Yeah, I didn't think, I didn't think they were going to get a 1st for him, but I thought they would have got a good package from him. Maybe with, early enough to maybe with a 2nd, or maybe with, a couple of picks and a player of need. They could have got some sort of combination. And I just think, they've made a mess of it again. And my opinion of Ryan Poles is a lot different to, I think, of what he seems to be out there in the media. He still heralded doing that wonder trade to get rid of the one last year, and I'm still convinced that was as good as it's turned out, or they've not done the right moves around it to build around it.
I think a lot of it is like, even if that trade is a 100 out of 100 absolute smash, that doesn't make up for a lot of the other moves.
Yeah.
You essentially, with Pittsburgh alone, you've got Justin Fields and the cornerback for Chase Claypool and a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Joey Porter Jr. I forgot his surname there. Like, That's awful.
Mhm.
You know, I know Paul didn't take Justin Fields himself. I think it was last year, the previous GM, but you know, you go from having Justin Fields, and they could have traded him a year earlier and got more last year. I know, like, obviously they want to see what everyone else, can you get something out of him? Fair enough, but you know, you give up an early second round pick for Chase Claypool. That is not good an assessment. And the Panthers came in and basically gave you a haul for a pick. I'm not saying he didn't negotiate it, but you know, it's like that Michael Owen Neville Southall clip of like, well done, he's 13. Well done, you traded with the Panthers. Like, the Panthers essentially just give away players and picks on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure that's a real big slam dunk.
Yeah, I think there's a piece to me as well around how the league views Justin Fields around. We've said, there's tools to work with. I think he's only really shown that once the last two seasons have died.
Yeah.
The first kind of third to half of the last two seasons, Justin Fields has been really bad.
Yeah.
You know, we know what he can do as a runner, great. Throwing the ball, he's been terrible. And he's then the back end of the seasons has kind of come alive a bit and put in a few better performances that's made you think, oh, okay, maybe there is something here. That's all right when there's almost nothing to play for.
Yeah.
So
I would say, I think the only thing was like crazy is that, you know, Trey Lance got a 4th round, you know, to go to the Cowboys. Sam Darnold, I think there was rumors they were trying to get what Sam Darnold got, what the Jets got, which was a 2nd and a 4th, and also a 6th as well. So I think that's what they're aiming at. Obviously, there's been reports was 5 other teams interested, but it was all backup positions, and I don't think Fields was too happy with that, the way he couldn't compete. So again, like you've mentioned, it feels like they've done it to help Justin Fields or do him right, but I don't know if that's, you know, the right kind of thing to do when you're trying to progress. And I feel like you said, if they kept hold of him until the draft, you know, a team misses out on a QB who they wanted, you know, someone moves up and all that kind of thing, then you could have got a decent haul for him. You know, we've talked about it, so the Broncos, the Raiders, a few other teams who, you know, the quarterback room looking at it now looks a bit shaky, and give it a couple of months and you could have got a lot more. But I'm guessing they wanted to do him right after basically not helping him out when they did draft him and with the team they've had. From the Pittsburgh side of you, I think when you look at their QB room, it's under $5 million, which is crazy when you've got 2 quarterbacks who started last year.
And Pittsburgh have got a decision to make as well, haven't they, about whether they pick up his 5th-year option? Because it's a lot of money. I think it's $25 million.
25, yeah.
I think I would say there's close to, because they have to make that decision this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like by May, whatever. Charlie doesn't want him picked up either.
Do not pick up the option, is that what Charlie's saying? Yeah.
That's what he's saying. But there's no rush to either. Like, what are the odds that someone's going to come and outbid you next summer? Like, no one wanted to trade for him now. And like, obviously, like Baker Mayfield, nobody wanted him last year and he still got paid. But like, what's the worst that you do with Justin Fields? Put him on the franchise tag next year. If he really comes out and shines and you give up 15 million of equity as opposed to being tied into 25 million. I know what I would do. If I'm only willing to give up a 6th round, maybe a 4th round pick, if he ends up balling out, I'm not confident enough to type 25 million in him now. That would seem ludicrous. And they've already heavily been leaking the Steelers that they plan Russell Wilson as a starter. They're planning to extend him after the season, which I think stinks of "we love you, Russ." I think that's an arm around his shoulder. I don't think that's in any way legitimate. I think that stinks of smokescreen and just mistruths. Because if you wanted to extend him, you could extend him now.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you. Like you say, they're paying $5 million for their quarterback room this year. And, you know, last week on our first free agency breakdown, me and Joe especially, I think we're very down on not so much the Wilson move, but like the quarterback room's still not moving the needle. I think now it does, though, because I mean, boy, I would take Justin Fields over Kenny Pickett 100 times out of 100. Pickett has never had it in the NFL. Even if Justin Fields isn't a great passer, nor is Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett can't do anything else. Fields has got a bit of electricity. He's got an ability to energize an offense, even if it's not consistently. And there's certainly warts in his throwing game. But yeah, I think just such a good move for the Steelers, such a good pair of moves. Between the two of them, if you get competent quarterback play for $6 million, $5 million is an absolute home run. Yeah,
and I think, like I said, Wilson's said he's going to be the starter. I think unless he has an absolute stinker of a camp, that is going to remain. I don't think there's enough with how training camps are now that, there's going to be enough snaps for the first teamers to go 50-50 and be a real battle. I think Wilson's going to start. I feel there's more pressure on him now because I think with Fields being there, if he does start, dipping, his performance not great, then the fans are probably wanting Fields in more than Pickett if Pickett was still there, just because they know it's the unknown and it's the, Fields could do something special. But I feel like Wilson's going to be very middle of the road. So I think he's going to keep his job, but he's not going to be great. So we'll see how that works out for Fields. But we'll move on from that. And you've already mentioned him with Pickett. He wanted out of the Steelers with all the reports, where he wasn't too happy with Russell Wilson. He gets traded to the Eagles, which I think again was a bit of a surprise and came out of left field. So he was traded to the Eagles with a 4th round pick, and the Steelers get a 3rd and a 7th. So guys, as the NFC East, obviously I don't think this is too scary or whatnot. It's just at least a capable backup for the Eagles if Jalen Hurts does go down.
I don't understand it. So there is that. Kenny Pickett has some starting NFL experience. This is a man that though was dropped for Mason Rudolph, and I don't understand because you're not getting anywhere near the same skill set. It's very difficult to get the same skill set as Jalen Hurts. But if you have to go to Kenny Pickett, you have to completely change how that offense works. So, I don't understand it. I think the only thing I've got to say about it is that, at least Kenny Pickett doesn't have to move too far.
That's good for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Also, incredibly weirdly, Kenny Pickett is older than Jalen Hurts as well. But, I don't know why you wouldn't have just, go with Tyrod Taylor, maybe. That's someone who can relatively replicate Jalen Hurts' skill set to a degree. I do not understand the fit at all. If Hurts gets hurt, then goodness knows what they're going to do in Philly. Wildcat with Saquon Barkley, maybe. I don't understand the move. So, did you say they got a 3rd and a 7th for him, Joe?
No, so Pickett and a 4th goes to the Eagles, and the Steelers get a 3rd and a 7th, I think. So they just switched the 3rd.
I heard the 3rd, and I was like, no way.
Yeah,
I understand it more now.
Even more disrespectful for Kenny Pickett the fact they have to send a 4.
They basically move up 22 spots, basically.
Yeah. Okay,
that's how it is. Yeah, and the 7th rounders are in 2020. Yeah, and they get two 7th rounders in 2025.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's a strange one. I think I can see the Eagles it's a team where, because again, it's the high draft capital. He got drafted high, so he must be good. We can fix him. We've got the coaches, not like the Steelers, who can actually get the most out of him. I think that's where it's at. They might be hoping for what happened with Darnold in San Francisco and a few, and maybe what Baker elsewhere, where they might be able to get some out of him and maybe trade him next year when there's people again looking for quarterbacks, as it is every year. So, but again, because I think he's only on his 3rd year, so he's still got 2 years of his rookie contract. So I think it's worth it. You might get something out of it. It's a bit strange. They would have to change the whole offense. So hopefully, Hurts doesn't just go down. If it goes down for a quarter of a game, that's going to be strange how they do that. But I think it's worth a shot, especially they didn't pay too much. And just to wrap up the Eagles, they also signed Devin White as well. Devin White, who formerly of the Buccaneers, who was one of the rising stars during the Super Bowl, but has dropped off quite a lot. So it feels like the Eagles are trying to fix that linebacker group with players who were good a few years ago, which it feels like they've done for a while. So we'll see.
I think it's a very Philly move.
Yeah, I think it's the 4th. Is it the 4th linebacker they've signed? Along with a couple of guys, along with Huff for the line. Yeah. I think it's the 4th linebacker they've signed. So they're just throwing potentially everything at it to try and get that result.
It feels like such an Eagles move, because obviously they got the Shaq Leonard last year and everyone was like, oh my God, what an absolute steal. It's going to be great. Eagles. And this just got released. I can't remember him playing. So we'll see how it works out with all this kind of Eagles hype as usual.
And it seems like they might be losing Hassan Reddick as well. We'll cover that if and when it comes, I guess. But it doesn't seem positive that he'll be sticking around.
Well, that's why they got the guy from the Jets, which Paul just mentioned.
Yeah.
It sounded like they just got him younger, just similar kind of role, so they'll probably trade. So we'll carry on with the quarterbacks, and we'll finish it off with another trade with Sam Howell being traded to the Seahawks from the Commanders, which again came out of left field and wasn't expecting it. So they got Howell, a 4th and a 6th for a 3rd and a 5th, if that makes sense. So guys, let's go from the Commanders side first off, because I think that's the more interesting side. How are you feeling with them with not having a quarterback in the minute? Obviously drafting one with the number 2 pick, but nothing quite behind, which I was surprised at.
I thought they would have kept Sam Howell, just because I think that whoever you take, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's Drake May, let's assume it's one of those two. Yeah. You just had Howell. He's a safe enough pair of hands, I think. It was his first year starting last year and his second year in the NFL. He did, we've mentioned it, he did okay. He did a good job in a bad situation. First half of the year, he actually just played quite well, regardless of the situation. So, I thought you might have just kept him around to see if you needed to if your guy wasn't ready yet, that you drafted at 2 and you maybe needed to start Howell for the first half of the year, knows the offense, plays, and that would have been an easy transition. Also, if you do go Drake May at 2, that's Sam Howell's buddy. Maybe that would have been a nice situation for him to come into. They roomed together at North Carolina. So, I'm surprised. But, what was Sam Howell, the 6th rounder?
5th or 6th, I think,
6th rounder, for what they got.
He had the 6th best in passing season in Washington history last year, which I know they threw a lot. But, I mean, he didn't play every game either, though. I don't think. He might have missed a couple towards the end, right? Oh, no, I think he did play every game. Jacoby Brissett came in them, sorry. I kind of love I know we're on the Washington side of it. They do have Marcus Mariota there as a veteran, safe pair of hands. I don't like Mariota, truthfully. He bailed on the Falcons when Ridder took his job. He's not someone I would want guiding my rookie quarterback to be, whoever that might be. And I did see someone speculating, maybe the Drake May, Sam Howell thing would be awkward because they are friends. It's that seems to stink to me. I think you'd want someone that he knows and trusts there rather than someone who, bailed on the Falcons and hasn't done anything in his NFL career for 5 years. But, I
also think, by the way, just a quick one, that the Mariota signing leans to them drafting Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Because Mariota, maybe not so much now, but especially when he started, was a more about quarterback. Anyway, so sorry.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I think it matches the skill set much more, like we're saying, with not Kenny Pickett. And on the Seahawks side, I quite like it as a move. And compared to Justin Fields, again, it's kind of an expensive one, I think. I think, on the pick value chart, they end up giving a later 3rd in total value, which seems a bit much. But Geno Smith has his ups and downs, just like Sam Howell does. For a backup, I don't think he's any worse off than the way with Drew Lock. Howell certainly has his moments. He's got an arm. I think it's a fine backup player. Maybe a bit low upside again compared to someone that you could have got, but I think it's absolutely fine for Seattle as a backup player.
If Geno struggles as well, again, we saw Geno drop off, and he wasn't bad last year by any stretch of the imagination. He certainly dropped off from the year before. If Geno starts dropping off again, I'd see him heading to the bench and them going, we'll roll with Sam Howell.
Yeah, new coach as well.
Yeah, I think he would. The weapons they've got. We should see JSN come on a bit. You've still got DK. You've got Tyler Lockett again. Age is might start taking its toll, but you've got 3 great receivers there.
Yep.
He's got pace to burn as well, and what's Howell good at absolutely launching it down the field and giving them a chance to go up there. So I think they'll be moving their hands. I'll be shocked if he plays, just because I think similar to Wilson, I think Geno's going to have a decent year. I'll be surprised if he drops off too much, but at least gives them an option then, going someone like Drew Lock or someone who's you just know when they're playing, it's going to be a boring kind of game where it's going to be so slow and they're going to lose it anyway. So I think this gives them, a better chance in games. And I think, for the price, why not? The quarterback's a most important position. Why not get a great backup? Like we said last year, with all the injuries and everything went off, so you might as well Yeah, back yourself up. And I forgot to mention too, so I'll quickly mention that we don't really talk. Jimmy G signing for the Rams and Josh Dobbs signing for the 49ers. The NFC West backup rooms have changing quite a bit.
Well, I mean, just on that note, I don't know if we touched on Desmond Ridder is now the Cardinals backup as well. It's all changing the backups in the NFC West.
And they all started last year, so yeah, it's
a different successes.
It's valuable to have that backup with starting experience. We've seen the last 2 years. Again, we mentioned it and probably laboured on this point a lot. The amount of different quarterbacks that have had to start games, 60 plus, I think it was 66, wasn't it? The quarterbacks are going down with injuries at an alarming rate. Not all of that was down to injuries, but a big chunk of it was.
Yeah.
Vast majority. So, you need somebody who you can throw in there and who can handle the situation and handle being a starting quarterback in the NFL. So, yeah. And that's why these guys are just keep cycling around.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've already mentioned Ryan Pace, and we'll go back to the Bears because, in my opinion, I think they've actually done a good job this offseason in terms of actually stacking their the squad, getting ready for the first round pick. Is definitely a more better place to get drafted than it was when Justin Fields were. And when you look at the team and everything around it, it's probably one of the best for a first pick quarterback the situation for quite some time. So they made another trade with the Chargers for wide receiver Keenan Allen for a 4th round pick. So that gives them, you could say 2 number ones, maybe a 1A, 1B with DJ Moore and now Keenan Allen. And I think when you look at that team as a whole with the defense coming on at the end of the year, see if that continues. But it's certainly a great situation for Caleb Williams if we go on what the reporting is going as for the quarterback. So, yeah, what do you think? I know you had your harsh words about Ryan Pace, but I think this offseason and at the end of last year, he's done really well.
Yeah, Ryan Pauls, by the way. Ryan Pace was his predecessor.
Well, there you go. Right, too many Ryans.
Yeah, I love this move. I love Keenan Allen with a rookie quarterback. I think that's such a smart move. They're paying a lot for it this year, $23 million-ish, I think, but that's fine. You've got money to burn in Chicago. And I love Keenan Allen's attitude as well of they asked me to take a pay cut. I was the best player on the team last year. No. I just love that. He doesn't have any loyalty. They've moved city since he joined and been, franchise's best player since he got there. He doesn't know his head coach. He doesn't know this GM. No, fuck him. Go and get your money. I love it. And Keenan Allen's one of my favorite players since he came in the league as well. I just love watching him run routes and constantly ball out. I know fantasy football isn't everything, but last year in points per game, I know Keenan Allen missed down the stretch there. Keenan Allen was the number 3 receiver in points per game. DJ Moore was number 9 in points per game. That is a nice situation to throw a rookie quarterback into. 2 guys who can win at every level of the field. And what I think it really helps is the Bears have such flexibility at pick 9 now. They could trade down because they don't have a huge amount of draft capital. Especially with getting Keenan Allen in and getting nothing for Justin Fields this year. So they can, I thought they'd probably go with Rome Odunze if he was still there at 9. But now the trade back is an option. Getting the best edge player is an option. Getting another OT is an option. It is getting the best cornerback is an option because it's going to be so offensive heavy that first 7 picks, certainly probably 8 picks. I think they've just put themselves in such a good situation that you don't need to get a wide receiver 2 there. You still can. If Rome Odunze is there and you really want him, you can get him because I think he's a bit of a different body type to what they have. Big boy who can, again, win down the field. But yeah, as much as I'm giving Paul shit for some of his moves and for the mishandling of Justin Fields, I think this is a killer move. I think it's a great move for Keenan Allen as well because I'm not saying the Bears are going to be airing it out all the time, but I think the Chargers are going to be much more run heavy this year. And yeah, get your money and keep your money. You've earned it.
Yeah, love the move. Keenan Allen's fantastic. One of my favourite wide receivers for sure. Prime for, the offense could be something spectacular. We'll see. You'll see if, Caleb Williams, I think there's no doubt about it. But yeah, Caleb Williams can adapt to the NFL and he's going into the best position. You've touched on it. Has there been another number 1, a quarterback going first overall that's gone into a better situation than this? Not that I can recall.
No.
Not with with Swift, with Cole Kmet, which is, I know some people says a top 10. They got Everett, obviously. And I think the defense was a top 10 last year as well when they've got Ngakwe and obviously they got Montez Sweat last year. So I think it feels a situation. Yeah, I think it feels a situation where if he fails, it's more on the player, depending on how the coaching goes and everything. But it's long time since, what happened last year. I think we all said it in the preseason with what the Panthers were providing with some of their wide receivers and the rest of the team. It was like, it's going to be a struggle. It feels like when you look at that team right now, it's like it shouldn't be a struggle if he is that quarterback. I think it gets to a situation where if you can't do it with this squad, is he ever going to be that generational talent? I think he's going to be judged straight away. And I know there's been some pushback in terms of, I don't know if you saw RG3's video. Saying that he should skip it because if they don't win 9 or 10 games, the GM and the head coach is going to be out, and that's not a great position for him to be in. But, if you go to Washington, to
be fair, I found that kind of farcical from RG3 because, it's all set up for him to succeed. If you don't win games, people will be on the hot seat. That's how it works.
Yeah, I understand RG3's point a little bit, though, in terms of they've wasted Justin Fields, really. And in terms of they didn't really do the things to help him, and maybe they seem to have learned from that mistake, which is good. But I kind of get his point a little bit. But also he's got to make just try to make.
If you're going number one, if you're going number one, it's going to be a crap position, whatever happens. So
exactly,
I think that's the bigger point.
And also, we didn't touch on that, but they doesn't have Getsy in the building anymore. He's gone to the Raiders as their OC. Shane Waldron is a professional offensive coordinator. He's done well in Seattle over the years. I just think that's, again, just like a competency bare level over Getsy. It's just another, cap, feather in the cap of what I expect the Bears to be next year, which I'm not going to say they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I expect them to be much better overall.
Still, third. Joe, I'll stop interrupting you. Sorry, we're rusty. We were still in the second episode back. They're still behind the Packers and the Lions though to win the division. Maybe it's better. I don't know. But tough even with all these moves, it is a tough division.
Cool. From the flip side, so we'll just touch on the Chargers. So they obviously lost Allen, 4th round pick. They released Mike Williams, and they also restructured Bosa and Max. So they decided to keep the two, defensive line players who are aging and usually off the field instead of having an offense whatsoever. So it could be a Harbaugh special where it's run. All you can do is run because there's nothing there. So from a Chargers point, is anything to be excited going into this season in terms of especially having Herbert and nobody else?
I think there are things to be excited about because you've got a coach that has done nothing but win wherever he's been, whatever level of the game, college, NFL. So, I think there are things to be excited for, but I also think they will just need to show a little bit of patience. I always talk about Chargers fans. They don't exist. But
not in LA.
But, I think they just need to show a little bit of patience because it's going to take Harbaugh a little while to build this thing, I think. So, but he's shown his intention, and the Chargers have shown their intention. They're clearly valuing getting to the quarterback more and having dominant defensive line players more. Khalil Mack had a career year last year, though, right? What did he get to? 17, 18 sacks?
Yeah, he had
I don't know if you say it's a career. I know career in sacks, but it depends when he was in the Raiders.
Player of the year, didn't he? Okay, fair enough. But you know what I mean?
I think half of them sacks came against Eden O'Connell.
He's in one game, yeah. But he looked alive again last year. Bosa, you're not going to get rid of, and the signings to sign Gus Edwards are more of a physical running back than what they were getting from Austin Eckler. Hayden Hurst, someone more physical from a tight end perspective. So there are players that I think will just build that culture. And, they're going to go at 5 if they don't trade out. Joe Alt could be the one to, you've got your bookend tackles there. Build that team on toughness, on meanness, on nastiness. That's what you're going to see. It's just going to take a while to get there.
Doesn't feel very chargery, does it?
No. This is like Spurs hiring Sam Allardyce and sticking Kevin Davis up front.
Yeah. And I think just on the Herbert thing, last year he missed a few games for injury, so I'm not going to include that. But Justin Herbert's fantasy finishes, again, fantasy and everything, but it's kind of indicative of how he performed. Rookie, he finished 9 in 15 games. Number 2 quarterback, number 11 quarterback. He's been a top 12 quarterback every year he started the majority, 16 or 17 games. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Gus Edwards, maybe, or whichever rookie they end up taking at running back, because it's not going to be just Gus Edwards. Might be worth a fantasy pick, but if Justin Herbert's still getting drafted in the range he was last year, no chance am I going to be in on Justin Herbert this year. And I love Justin Herbert, but no. I
think it's definitely going to be a struggle. I think when he came to the 49ers, they had a lot better team, a lot of high quality players. It feels like the opposite, but I feel like this year might be one of them. Let's reset and start again his own players in, and with that 5th pick, I think that's the most interesting, where I could see them trading out. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is remaining before the quarterbacks go, do they pick it, or does someone give them a decent haul to take them? So
nice position.
Be interesting. So on the topic of Mike Williams being released, I don't know if you've seen, he just signed with the Jets. I think that's a good signing for the Jets. It's just one of them where, is he going to stay on the field enough? Is it another old person the Jets sign who doesn't play? And it's not a good signing. So what do you guys think of the Williams? And also we'll touch on they also signed Tyron Smith, the tackle or guard, previously of the Cowboys. What do you think of these 2 signings for the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first. I think it's worth the risk for Mike Williams. I know his injury record has been poor, and getting him on the field has been a problem, and keeping him on the field. But I think it's a good move. I think getting Aaron Rodgers, somebody who he'll be able to kind of click with and build a rapport with quite quickly and trust. With the ball down the field, I think when you suddenly you've got there, pairing him with Garrett Wilson, I think he's a good 1-2. Do you maybe go supplement that in the draft? Wide receivers pretty deep. And then, the Jets, obviously the big thing last year was their offensive line was shite. I think is a fair description of it. And, Tyron Smith, again, injuries have been a problem with him staying on keeping on the field for the Cowboys has been an issue. But when he has been able to play, he's certainly one of the top 5, maybe 3 left tackles in the NFL.
Yep.
And has been for a very long period of time. So again, another veteran, knows what he's doing, and along with they traded for Morgan Moses, didn't they, from the Ravens?
Got John Simpson in from the Raiders too at the guard position.
They're getting dependable people in those key positions.
Yep. Yeah, I fully agree. Great pair of signings, and John Simpson as well, and the guard from the Ravens. I just think, all good moves. I think, again, someone might pit me to another one here, but I think the Jets are the most all-in team this year, regardless of what Jerry Jones might say. But, Tyron Smith isn't getting any younger. Mike Williams is a 1-year guy. Aaron Rodgers might be VP, might be on a drug bender, ayahuasca. I don't know how to say that word. Ayahuasca, thank you.
We swap those. You do.
I'll do a tarot. You can do ayahuasca, yeah. Well, you can say ayahuasca. I don't know if you want to be doing it before a pod appearance, maybe. But it feels like the Jets are the most all-in team this year. Robert Saleh surely they need a playoff appearance to save his job this year.
I was going to agree with you. I think they've got to do something this year, and it was obvious that was obviously the offensive line. Didn't help that Rodgers went down straight away, but even if he got through that game, how long would he have lasted with how that offensive line plays? I think they've seen the biggest weakness, they've fixed it. Yeah, and I think it's a do or die. I think they either make the playoffs or it's completely restart, which is very Jets-like. So, I'd be curious going into the year. I think there'll be a big hype as there was last year. Yeah, and I think it's just mainly the injuries. I think if everyone can stay fit, who they've signed and who they've got, great. Because I think the offensive line, when you look at it as a whole, they've got rid of 4 out of the 5 players, so it should work. But signing an offensive lineman in free agency doesn't have a great track record, and it's not automatically going to sort your team out. So I think it's great business from the Jets. But we'll see if people can stay on the field.
I think they've got some flexibility in the draft now because they've filled a lot of holes. So, at 10, maybe
defensive edge. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Such a solid move. Defensive end, no matter what.
That's a flexibility. You'd have thought it'd be nailed on to be a tackle, and it still could be, right?
Yep.
To get a younger one in, but they've got the options now. They can just sort of see what comes to them, I suppose, as rather than.
I kind of think they might be Brock Bowers. I'm a little nerd, obviously. I do these mock drafts when I'm sat bored on a night or what have you, and he's the one player that I know the upside is so huge. And I always find a tough time placing him somewhere because I always end up going with the Jets. I always end up with them taking a tackle. But it's now they are all in. They do need a tight end. Tyler Conklin's fine at best, I guess. He's okay. But chuck Brock Bowers in there. You got Breece Hall, Brock Bowers, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson. You're cooking with something there, I think. Anyway, we've got a lot of time to talk about the draft. Sorry, I'm just chucking my.
Yeah, I did see a mock draft just before they signed Mike Williams about them trading with the Chargers and getting Marvin Harrison Jr., which would have been fun and interesting. But yeah, I can't see that happening now. Just on tackle news, we'll just skim through. So Trent Brown signs for the Bengals, which I think is much needed, just because they've lost a lot of players and need that offensive line to be a lot better to keep Joey Burrows on the field. And guard talk, Zeitler has joined the Lions, so that's making that team even better and more, feel like they're doing what all the best teams do in the NFL, and they sort that offensive and defensive line out and make it the center point, especially in the NFC. I think the best teams out there, that's what the best do. So let's move on to the Chiefs. So we did talk about a little bit last week, but they did make a signing. They got Hollywood Brown, wide receiver, to help that room out. I think it was desperately needed. I don't know if it's going to fix all the problems. I'm not a huge Hollywood Brown kind of fan. I think he dropped way too many balls to the Ravens when he was there, and he didn't really do much in Arizona. But it's probably better what they had last year, and I feel like they're going to keep making moves.
Yeah, I like the Marquise Brown move in that I think he's cheaper than MVS would have been this year. So just in that sense, I think it's it's an upgrade on MVS, and you've saved money. I'm surprised MVS didn't go. Marquise Brown didn't get more of a market, just with how the receiver market is. Again, I'm not a huge fan, but you can't teach speed, as I say, and he has it in an abundance. I think it's just a kind of another one where it helps him a little in that. They're picking obviously at the end of the first round. There'll be receivers there. There'll be tackles there. I think that's still their two biggest pain points that need to address one of the two at that pick. So it maybe makes receiver not quite as urgent, depending on how many go in the first 31 picks. Just giving that a little flexibility to go tackle if there's one there. But yeah, I don't think they're done. I think it's a nice move just for the low cost relatively. But yeah, still plenty to do, I think. Well, not plenty to. They just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
still moves to make though. Not not starting from zero, are they?
And I was thinking, I agree. It's just an upgrade on what they've got. I think it's and you can't teach speed, so that downfield threat. Yeah, might not be a Hollywood signing, but I think it's a decent move. Fits for both.
Yeah.
Well, since I'm a 49ers fan, I'll touch on two players who used to play for the 49ers, and we did quickly mention one last week, but we can talk about it a little bit more. So Arik Armstead signing for the Jaguars, and something which got released today is Chase Young signed for the Saints. So the Saints finally feels like they're doing something to improve their squad. I was shocked when the 49ers news came out that he wanted to leave. He didn't want to take a pay cut. But I understand what the 49ers were doing, trying to get cheaper, and with all the contracts they've got to pay out, and with Purdy's contract coming up in a few years, it's smart with a player who's missed 13 games over the last 2 years. I think it's a great signing for the Jaguars in terms of the kind of person he is and what he can produce. I think it's still high level. It's just this feels like a Jags kind of move, which doesn't go too well. I'm hoping it does, because I think Arik Armstead, he's been fantastic for the 49ers, and he's always won the Man of the Year for the last few years. But it's just going to the Jags just feels like it's not going to be great. And and Chase Young, just to mention, he is having surgery on his neck with a neck issue, but he should be fit for the start of the season if everything goes well. So I think both good signings. Curious how it actually works out. Would you guys got any opinion on these two?
I mean, the Armstead one from an Irish perspective, he'd have been a nice to keep one, wouldn't he, if they could have worked it out. But, I don't think in the grand scheme of things will be felt too much of a loss. Chase Young had his opportunity to earn a deal at the Niners, didn't he? And he just didn't. He probably had his best game was probably the Super Bowl, right? Wasn't it? Probably for the Niners, but yeah, he just didn't do enough, did he? And I think there's just concerns about his character and his desire on how much he actually wants to play football, and he doesn't seem like a real football guy. All those things surrounding him, because you saw when the trade was made, Commanders didn't seem too fussed that he went. I think so. Yeah, it's a shame, when you take somebody number 2 overall and what you've got out of him.
And what you could have had, Justin Herbert, who were, I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts because he went second round. No one's expecting Jalen Hurts to be this. But the Washington haven't had a quarterback, forever, essentially. So,
Joe Theismann.
Yeah, even Kirk Cousins being kind, but man, you take a D end there and it ends up being this. It's a dud. Yeah. And I think on the Niners side of it, Leonard Floyd signed for less average per year, right? Than Chase Young's got his 1 year neck surgery needing contract. I think great move by John Lynch there.
Yeah. I think with Chase Young, I would have been surprised if we did sign him. I think he would have had to have an absolute stinker and not have the Super Bowl. And I don't think even if he had a great end of the year, they wouldn't be able to sign him because they just haven't got the cap and can't afford it. And I think, again, he's one of them players where because he was drafted number 2, there's plenty of teams who are still in that draft mode thinking,
I could change him.
Yeah, I can change him. He can be amazing for us. He was the number 2 pick. Let's sign him. So, and I think they get a comp pick from it as well. So, overall, not too bad.
Interesting for the Saints, particularly somebody who's in such a precarious team that has been, and I suppose it probably still is, right? Even with the moves that they've made, in quite a precarious, I can't say it, cap position. Giving Chase Young $13 million for him to half-ass it, I don't know. Look, maybe it clicks. Maybe it clicks and he has a monster year. Who knows? But yeah,
we all kind of know.
I think it's a real gamble for the Saints when they've got a lot of holes. That $30 million could have been spread around a couple of 2-3 players that they really needed for their roster. So surprised, I think, that it was the Saints with that money.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. And we'll round up this free agency where I've got no down what's happened the last few days. So Mattison joined the Raiders, so their running back room is looking different. AJ Dillon went back to the Packers after being released. And Breece Hall signed for the Buccaneers. I think other than that, it was fairly, not big signing. So have you got any other notes on?
Didn't sign for the Buccaneers. I don't know who did, but it wasn't Breece Hall.
Bryce Hall.
Bryce Hall. I don't know who we're talking about here, but if Breece Hall's gone to the Bucs, I've certainly missed that one. Bryce Hall, Jets safety, I think.
Corner
from the Jets,
Okay.
Breece and Bryce Hall on the same team. That was the issue. That's not that. Yeah. Not Joe's fault. That.
Well, at least we don't have that anymore. And that one's on the books.
Awesome. So unless you guys are going...
Sorry, AJ Dillon one was weird as well. The Packers brought him back on some weird contract technicality where if you play every game in your first 4 years for a team and essentially don't get an offer, you can be brought back on some veteran minimum thing. I don't know exactly how it works. So maybe I shouldn't have started talking about this. But it's the only one I've ever seen on it. You can probably Google it to know more than I clearly do. But it's some weird technicality where if you're playing every game in your first 4 years, but don't get re-signed, they can bring you back on some certain kind of tag that I've never heard of before. Nothing to add there other than AJ Dillon kind of stinks, and I don't think I'd have brought him back on any kind of tag.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
Joe, shall we just have a quick run over the team? Just because, we want to make sure we've talked about everybody's team over the first 2 episodes of the new season of Good Teams and Great Teams cover. So should we just very quick touch point on those ones that we didn't really talk about too much?
I'll just go through all. I think there's like 10 or so. So I'll quickly run through and just stop me if there's any you want to talk. So we mentioned the 49ers signed Leonard Floyd. They got Malik Collins in a trade and Jordan Elliott. So they've really backed up that defensive line, which I think was their weak point. I think, again, that opens up their draft to possibly get a cornerback or offensive line. I think that's their 2 biggest needs. We mentioned the Seahawks getting a new backup quarterback, but they also re-signed Leonard Williams, which I think it was big after trading the 2nd and the 5th rounder, so they needed to do that. And they signed a few offensive linemen in Nick Harris, and they've got the Fant brothers, George Fant and Noah Fant, tight end, and they got Sean Murphy-Bunting.
I do kind of, just again, fantasy-ish on it all. That tight end room is cleared out, and Noah Fant's always had. He's an incredible athlete, essentially. He always has been since he got drafted. I kind of like Noah Fant as a sneaky, lowish tight end who could, be a top 10 guy this year, because he doesn't take enough to be a top 10 tight end. I've always liked Noah Fant, and Will Dissly went to the Chargers. The other tight end, Colby Parkinson, went somewhere for too much money.
I think.
The Rams, yeah. So I just kind of like that, as Noah Fant might have an opportunity to show something, because his first few years in Denver he was tied to Drew Lock, and then he got tied in Pete Carroll wanting to use 50 tight ends a week. So I'm kind of just optimistic that we might finally see something from Noah Fant, because I've always enjoyed his potential.
Just the other Seahawks shout out. I don't think he's done yet, but it seems like it's going to be. They're going to get signed Jonathan Hankins, so another departure from Dallas, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point. You got another one going for Dallas, and when Leonard Williams in the trade for the Giants didn't set the world on fire, so I still think they need some more D-line support, and Hankins is a great run stuffer. So,
yeah. Cool. So the Saints, we just mentioned them, but they also re-signed Tyrann Mathieu and Demario Davis to new contracts, and they signed Willie Gay, Demario Davis pair linebackers, and got Cedric Wilson. So not too much happening for the Saints. The Bengals, who we mentioned last week, have seemed like they've lost a lot of players. They originally franchise tagged T. Higgins, but it sounds like he wants a trade and he wants to get out of there because they're not giving him the contract he thinks he deserves. And I'm guessing when he looks at what Ridley got, he's probably right. They also signed Zach Moss to replace Joe Mixon, and they signed Mike Gesicki, re-signed Drew Sample, and signed a free agent darling in Sheldon Rankins, who everywhere. And they also got Von Bell and Geno Stone, both safeties.
I do if you remember we talked about a lot last year. One of the things that might have helped, because they lost Von Bell and they lost the other safety, and I can't remember who it was, but they lost both of them, didn't they, at the same time?
Jesse
and we're like, that's second. Sorry,
Jesse Bates.
There we go, Jesse Bates. Thank you to Atlanta. Good recall, Byron. And we're like, that could hold them back, and that secondary could be a bit of a problem. And now all of a sudden it might be a strength again in Von Bell back, a guy that he did all right last year as well. And then Geno Stone, who had such a good year with the Ravens. So
Zach Taylor sounded delighted to have Von Bell back, called him the ultimate tone setter, I think it was, or the standard setter. And he's always kind of seemed that way. He seemed like a real solid pro. So big comeback, I think, for the Bengals. And the T. Higgins I find kind of fascinating, like you touched on there, seeing what Calvin Ridley got. I bet T. Higgins cannot wait to get a contract. And it's not coming from Cincy.
It's just a difficult spot, isn't it? Because he wants to, in essence, he wants to be paid as a one, but they also have to pay Jamar Chase. So it was just always going to happen, I guess, wasn't it? That, you were going to get to this point. You weren't going to be able to please them all.
No.
Cool. So the Colts, we'll move to the Colts. So they franchised and then re-signed Michael Pittman to a 3-year, $70 million deal. I think they needed to keep him. I think they're a team that feels like they've got a lot of work to do in that offense to help Richardson out, give him some more weapons. They also signed ever reliable Joe Flacco as the backup, and they re-signed a bunch of players, which I'm not going to go through, but a lot on the defense.
Signed Grover Stewart for a lot of money as well, right?
Sorry?
Grover Stewart came in. Oh, well, not came in. He re-signed, I think, actually.
Re-signed.
But yeah, he got paid quite a lot. I think it's about 40 million for a couple of years. So, and yeah, I love that Flacco. You know, we're talking about the Kenny Pickett not being a scheme fit or Jalen Hurts. Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson might a little different.
A quick one. Joe Flacco sort of proved last year he could sit on his ass for 10 weeks and wait for a phone call. I'm surprised. Is he really going to want to put himself through training camp and all that when he could have just waited for a phone call?
It's probably made like double, like quadruple the money he would have made if he didn't have that little bit. So he's probably like, I'm probably going to be sitting behind.
He's getting $4.5 million guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean the vet minimum is what, whatever Russell Wilson's getting, obviously. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he took a job that didn't have a path to him starting. The only thing is, if Anthony Richardson isn't going to be ready to, I think Anthony Richardson will be good to go, so it's kind of moot. But he is coming back from injury. Is that playing into it a little that he might get to start the season rather than come in during the season?
I don't know. I
found it odd as well, I must say.
Yeah. Andy Richardson, I think from what we saw in the limited time, I will be shocked if Andy Richardson ever plays all 17 games.
Yeah.
Just because of the way he plays.
Yeah.
Unless he changes massively. You're probably always going to need a decent backup in Indianapolis.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair to, Shane Steichen, one of the few head coaches that I would trust, I guess, to get a game plan out of anybody with what he done last year. Because Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew, again, not exactly, Jalen Hurts and Tyrod Taylor, as I was saying earlier, like they're not exactly similar things there. Gardner Minshew probably much closer to Joe Flacco in how they play. So, I'll trust Steichen to do it. I just found it a bit of an odd match.
I will move on to the AFC East because there's 3 teams we haven't talked about, so I'll quickly run through each one. So the Patriots, who seem to be very busy early on, but I don't know if they've got that much better, but they signed Jacoby Brissett to possibly be the backup or starter, depending on who they draft. They also signed Antonio Gibson and Oko Barafor, if I can say that, tackle. They also re-signed Kendrick Bourne and Jalen Regan at wide receiver, and they just signed KJ Osborne today. They re-signed Hunter Henry and signed Austin Hooper. They re-signed Mike Onwenu, who was ranked the first inside offensive lineman, so they managed to get him back. And they got Josh Uche back, who apparently took less money to stay with the Patriots and take a punt on himself that he can get more money next year. And they also tagged Kyle Duggar. That's the Patriots. So the Bills, who seems like one of them teams who have lost quite a few players, they re-signed Deion Dawkins, AJ Epinesa, Daquan Jones, and Taylor Rapp. And they signed another quarterback to be a backup, Mitch Trubisky. And they signed Curtis Samuel, which I think happened either today or yesterday. And finally, the Dolphins, they signed Tennessee starting center Aaron Brewer, but he plays for the Titans. I don't know if that says much. They re-signed Robert Jones, Isaiah Wynn, and Nick Needham, and they signed Shaq Barrett, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, Kendall Fuller, and Jonnu Smith.
Plus another departure.
And Jordan Poyer.
Plus another departure from the Dallas Cowboys and Neville Gallimore.
Yeah. So in terms of the AFC East, I think it's changed quite a bit. I think the Dolphins and Bills have lost quite a few players. Yeah. And I think especially on the Dolphins side, it feels like it's all on tour now. You've got to earn, you're the man now, got the team around you, especially on defense. They've lost quite a few players and obviously losing the defensive coordinator as well. I think that's going to be tough going into the season. See what happens with the Bills. Feels like they've got rid of a few veterans and they're trying to get slightly younger and a new regime. And the Patriots just feeling like they're doing the old Patriots way where they're just signing players but not actually getting that much better. So I think they need a huge draft.
Nothing to be excited for there. And what you just ran through, what's happened with the Patriots. There's just nothing. I would say
the re-signings were good, but actually the adding of weapons and especially on offense just feels
And the re-signings are kind of, like, they are good players. Like, I think they've done well not to lose them, but this is a team picking 3 overall. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's the Chiefs re-signing their squadron up. And I find it so uninspiring. Yeah. So, you're going to put a rookie quarterback in there and, the best wide receivers didn't overpay Calvin Ridley and didn't overpay Mike Williams. Who are they throwing the ball to? Austin Hooper. This is a fine tight end room for 2019. And, they didn't even keep Devonta Parker. He's gone to the Eagles, didn't he? It's just, I don't know what they're doing in New England. I think John Mayo even said like when he got the job, like money to spend. It's like, well,
it feels like some players didn't want to go there because it's something obviously with the Ridley. Like,
yeah, I mean, I understand that, but pay them then.
Yeah,
players will go where you pay them, like ultimately. And one of the moves you touched on there, Bills, they lost Gabe Davis and brought in Curtis Samuel. I love Curtis Samuel, but I just kind of think Khalil Shakir kind of broke out the second half of last season. I think their skill sets are so similar, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like, Gabe Davis had a very specific skill set of go. We're going to yeet the ball down the field at you. And I'm not sure that Curtis Samuel comes anywhere near to replacing that aspect of their offense. Are they just going to use Kincaid and Knox more vertically, maybe? And have,
they also signed Matt Collins as well, didn't they? Who made?
Oh, they did sign Matt Collins, yeah. Who is that kind of guy? You're right, yeah.
That sort of burner, but yeah.
And obviously with Diggs still up in the air, I don't think there's not been much talk about that. It felt like at the end of the season, it's like, well, he's probably going to be gone. But I wonder if that's something after the draft or going into the season where that comes alive a bit more.
It'd be interesting because we've talked about mentioned it several times. The draft is deep for wide receivers. There aren't going to be that many places to go.
No.
So yeah, I mean, there'll always be some of course, saying that, Stephanie, because obviously Miles is going to be Miles better than a lot of these places. So of course there'll be something, but there's not going to be like obvious holes to go, oh well, someone can make a move. So interesting. He might be one to watch for once a season started.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Interesting, yeah.
I think with how the league is going as well, it's each team needs, 3 good wide receivers. And I think they'll want that as well. And I think some of the trades which have been happening, I think someone like Diggs, even though he didn't really produce last year, could still get second rounder. I think someone will be willing. Someone will be desperate enough to give up that kind of.
It's a shame to just sign Ridley because it feels like it would just be the Titans because that seems to have been their MMO for the last 5 years. Robert Woods, Julio Jones, Andre Johnson. Did he end up in Tennessee? There was a load of them, though, in a row. And obviously, Nuke Hopkins now. It just feels like that's a Tennessee move written all over it. I don't think it'll happen this year because, I mean, it's also a new GM and stuff. But, yeah. Any chance to shit on the old one?
Right. We'll round out with the 2 remaining teams, but nothing as much has happened, really, for each team. So, the Broncos have re-signed Will Lutz and signed Brandon Jones and re-signed Little John Humphrey. Nothing much more from the Broncos. And we'll finish it with the Cowboys, who
we're all in
with their 4 signings. With Eric Kendricks probably
is the only external one. The 3 others are just re-signing. We have a running back.
Rico's back.
Rico Dowdle's back. I don't mind that. I think actually you'll be able to get something out of Rico, but not as a one.
I didn't want the first bit of news we were covering a week into free agency of the Cowboys going, though. I don't mind Rico Dowdle coming back.
I do like Eric Kendricks. I think Eric Kendricks will be a good signing, to be fair. I think you needed somebody who, he's obviously had those years with Mike Zimmer. I think that makes sense. He will be a big leader on that defense. Jordan Lewis, I think he's coming back, which I think probably signals that Stephon Gilmore won't come back.
Yeah.
And the long snapper's back, so that's good.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be a Cowboys recap without mentioning Leighton Vander Esch retiring, which again improves the need, provides more need for Eric Kendricks to come in and be a starter.
Such a shame at Vander Esch.
6-year career, I think, ended up being.
Yeah.
Which feels way too short. I love this story even before he went to Dallas, just, coming out of a town of about 30 people, it felt like. I can't remember the exact of it, but and then, he went to Dallas to, obviously, our team, my team. And always a real solid all-American type player, kind of felt like a throwback kind of player. And real sad how it ended for him. But
he got injured, obviously, the back end, second half of last season and also the back end of the season the year before. And you noticed the difference when he wasn't there because Dallas just couldn't stop the run without him. He was a big miss.
Yeah, I think it's obviously sad and big miss. But I do with the Cowboys, if you're getting Eric Kendricks to, again, would have been great in 2019 to be a starter. I know 49ers had him signed, but he was going to be the 3rd or 4th linebacker on that squad. To then the Cowboys wanting him to be the man. It's a bit worrying, and it's a strange one. Obviously, I know the Prescott contract might be affecting this, but it's still, with everything what Jones has said, it's not looking good.
It's ludicrous, and they've got to this point, and still with this, Prescott's contract's just going to rumble on all summer again, and we'll see some panic free agent sign, I'm sure, at some point. I suppose I've got some hope that they made a couple of good moves that didn't they last year in terms of trading for Brandon Cooks, trading for Stephen Gilmore. So I'm hopeful they'll maybe pull a couple of them out of the bag later on in the summer and fill a couple of the gaps. But I'm very worried going into the draft with this many holes.
I would say, just to help you, Paul, I had a quick look at the teams and the players who got the most amount of money the last few years in the free agency, and how really free agency, whoever spends the most and whatnot, doesn't really matter. So last year was the Broncos, the Saints, and the Falcons, with the biggest contract being Mike McGlinchey, non-quarterback, with and Juwan Taylor being the other one who didn't have a great year. And before that was the Jags, Jets, and Dolphins. So I think everyone goes a bit crazy with free agency. That's the do or die. I think the best teams are just looking for veterans and backups. I don't think you change massively. So, there is some hope for the Cowboys. It could be their year finally next year.
Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on. Cool. So that's more or less all the free agency. So we'll round up this with winners and losers of the free agency period. And we'll start with you, Paul. Who do you think is your winner?
Winner. So I thought I was going to start losers. Winner. I'm going to go for not a particular team, everyone. I'm going to go the running backs got paid. It's been a narrative, hasn't it, for the last few years. They had to almost unionize themselves. We heard about all the the Zoom calls and all that getting together. And we saw in the first day or two of free agency that the running backs got paid. So, yeah, you go get yours.
Byron?
I kind of have two teams, but I'll go with the Texans. I did touch on them on our recap last week of being my winner already, but I just think, we kind of touched on Justin Herbert there, of like, he's now out of his rookie window, and you look what the Chargers did over them 4 years, just waste of time, essentially. And you look at what the Texans are trying to do around CJ Stroud, and I just think that's exactly what you need to do around a rookie quarterback who shines early. Push your chips in and go for it. Favorite to the division. No first-round pick, but good draft capital this year. I just think, their foot's on the gas and they're, really pushing to try and get it all this year, or certainly get it all in this rookie contract. I think that's exactly how you should be doing your team building.
Yeah, I agree. I think how good Will Anderson's been has helped that not having the first round, because where they actually ended up finishing in the draft order, they wouldn't have got Will Anderson this year. So the head coach and GM started on fire for the Texans. So I'm going to go the obvious one. I'm going to go the Falcons, just because they've upgraded the biggest need, and especially within that division, they suddenly are the favourites. And I think if they draft well, especially on defense, get a few more bodies in there, I think they're a team who can definitely win that division. And who knows, can Cousins win another playoff game? But I think they're actually more exciting, and we should see the best of their skill position players who were disappointed with last year.
One more for me. I'll go just for winner. Just kids contributing. I'm going to go Pittsburgh Steelers and their quarterback room. They turned what was a huge problem into a great opportunity very, very quickly. So a great job just turning that around.
If we're chucking in additional ones, I'll chuck my second team in then. Why not? Detroit. I just think their slight deficiencies they had. They just got Kevin Zeitler in this morning. They can go best player available at 29. I mean, the fact that picking 29 means that's exactly where you should be. But, they extended Brad Holmes, extended Dan Campbell. They've got in DJ Reader, great addition when he gets fully fit. Kevin Zeitler's been one of the best guards in football for the last decade. I don't think they really made a misstep. Obviously traded for the Bucks cornerback as well, Carlton Davis, for very little, third round pick. And could still be in the Darius Sneed market. I just think, again, another one who they're in a great position, not even with a rookie quarterback contract, just with how they've built the team the last 3 years. And again, their foot's still on the gas. They're favourites for the division again. And I just think, all gas, no brakes for Detroit.
Yeah, they were my second team as well. Just like everything you've said. I like the Marcus Davenport one, just to give them another edge player. And like you said, we signed in Glasgow. Yeah, and then replacing Jonah Jackson with Zeitler. It's the team who feel like they haven't had a backward step, and they've just like I mentioned before, what free agency really is stocking your team with veterans and lifting your floor, which I think they've definitely done. And and see what they can do in the draft with just best player available. Cool. We'll move on to the losers. We'll go Byron first this time.
I was kind of torn between a few. We just touched on them right at the end there. I think the Dolphins are in a real tough spot again, they've had Tua's rookie contract. They brought in Tyreek Hill, brought in Jalen Ramsey, brought in big money players, Bradley Chubb, to go around it, and they never got anywhere. They always flamed out in the playoffs. It got cold and things went south. And now they've lost so many key pieces on the defense. Do they pay Tua this offseason? Do they try and hold out for next year and see what you get from him this year? I think they've backed themselves into a corner that I don't like. And I think you'd have the Jets ahead of them for the division this year as it stands today. Obviously, a lot of that depends on Aaron Rodgers being mobile and fit and able to throw the ball. But, it was kind of inevitable with cuts were going to have to be made with how they went the last 2 years. But I think they're just in not a great position at all going into 2024.
Paul, your loser?
Loser. We've already talked about the Cowboys. I think that's clear enough that I think they're a loser just because of too many holes. But I'm going to go Mac Jones. I think just a real sorry end to kind of what happened. What started out with so much promise in New England and just kind of, some fault of some pretty atrocious play, but also kind of, he wasn't really helped, was he, at all?
We said Justin Fields wasn't helped.
Yeah, particularly in that second season with the, offensive coordinator by committee approach, and and now kind of, being traded to Jacksonville, and I think it
is crazy because that first year I was like, oh, why did the 49ers not get Mac Jones? Because I didn't want him when he was getting drafted, but after that first rookie year, I was like, I think we made a mistake here. He was like the perfect 49ers quarterback. His Patriots have got someone, a steady player who, got him to the playoffs, but
I thought they would have went for him at this market as well, because I thought, Shanahan might still see it, but
I wonder if it was a free agent, if they released him, they might have been in there. I just don't think it was worth when they got Brandon Allen back to 6th round when, we've got the need. But
who knows? We might see Mac again, but
return of the market.
Yeah, when they don't re-sign Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Jaguar starter. But what I'm going to
talk next year, won't it?
What I'm going to give it to the Cowboys, and not just because what the Cowboys have not done, it's more what the other 3 teams have done. I think all the other 3 teams have improved. I think the Eagles have, it's Eagle time. I think they made some really good moves, getting in some really key players and improving that squad. I think even though the Giants lost Barkley, I think they've improved with getting Brian Burns and what they're signed. And I think the Washington's actually improved quite a bit. I think they've increased their floor quite a bit by getting a lot of the veterans and actually having a capable coach who could get quite a lot out of these. So I think Cowboys, in a sense, not just because they haven't done anything, but I think the teams around them have got better while they've just stayed the same or got worse. So I'm going to say the Cowboys. And I'll just shout out. I'll shout out one more since you guys shout out. I'm going to go the Broncos as well, because again, nothing's it feels like it's more the Broncos fan that I feel like this year's going to be, they've eaten all that money from Wilson. I think they're just going to try and get through this year, get a high draft pick and restart the year after. So I think it's going to be tough times in Bronco Nation next year.
It's just a shit place to be for a fan, isn't it? You're watching your team and everyone else, the majority of teams have got a lot of optimism. We've got new signings, we're improving, and then you're just sort of going, let's get to 2025. It's just a horrible place for Broncos country to be.
Yeah, with a coach who nobody likes losing, but Sean Payton reminds me of Jurgen Klopp. He doesn't take losing well. So I think it's going to be a stinky season in Denver again. And you kind of touched on who I was going to go loser. I'm taking the second one again because we're just starting off the season. Just with a fun fact, kind of related to Mac Jones, and Justin Fields was in that same kind of ballpark. And obviously, Zach Wilson is going to end up being cut this offseason.
Zach Wilson isn't worth anything now. So
in the 2021 and 22 drafts, there was 19 quarterbacks taken. The first one was Trevor Lawrence, his first pick in 2021. The last one was Brock Purdy, the last pick overall in 2022. The other 17 will not be starting in week 1. They're the only 2. So yeah, I was just going to try and chuck those 2 quarterback classes, bar those 2 as losers overall, because that is absolutely pitiful. When 5 went in the top 15 in 2021, fair enough, the 2022 class was never any great shape. I mean, Kenny Pickett was a first rounder. You'd think he'd still have his job 2 years later, but no, he doesn't. 3 years later, I can't count. Yeah, not even close. And one last, we didn't cover this at all, actually. One more winner, Jerry Jeudy's fucking agent. Jerry Jeudy got a contract extension from the Browns today for like $50 million.
Yeah.
It is good to be a wide receiver in the NFL.
Damn, yeah. I'll get him in. Get me his agent, get me Kirk Cousins' agent. I'll negotiate my next contract. Salary
big signing bonus, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Look, we might all get signing bonuses soon, Joe, if this takes off. Any more before we wrap up?
I think that's it, and we'll start heading towards. I think there's a few decent players still left out there, but it's just typical players, like random players. But I think there's still some players who can improve teams, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. And it's all about gearing up for the draft now.
Yeah, we're not doing free agency part 3.
Well,
Gilmore's going to go
when
now.
Zeke resigns in Dallas. That's when we have the emergency pod. And I'm just looking down the wide receiver list and wondering how many are going to be New England Patriots. Odell Beckham, obviously, 2019 All-Star. Michael Thomas, I think that's when he set the receptions record, was 2019. So I think some fun work to do in New England.
Gilmore back to New England.
Yeah. How many dog shit old receivers will they sign?
Yeah, plenty, I'm sure. That's it then for our second free agency episode, our winners and losers episode of the 2024 free agency period. We're back. We're going to be back with an episode a week. So, yeah, that was our second one. Our third one is going to be a returning guest. So we're going to have another interview with Bethany Pilkington, linebacker for the Great Britain Women's American Football Team. They are about to resume their IFAB European Championship campaign. They play Spain in a couple of weeks' time. So we're going to catch up with Bethany before she sets off for sunny Spain. Me and I think Byron, you're going to join this time, I think. So it's not just me and Beth. So yes, that'll be cool. So we'll have a catch up with Beth. It's been a long time since last summer, since last time we spoke. So yeah, it'll be cool to kind of see how the GB women's team are lining up ahead of final 2 games. They play Spain and then play Finland later in the summer. And we're working on some more interviews as well. So potentially with a player from the European League of Football through our connections, and possibly some more UK American football players, I should say, as well. I nearly promised something that we definitely wouldn't be able to deliver then. That's not happening. We're gonna speak to Beth, and then we're gonna probably do our People's Draft episode. Probably need to start getting that moved in the next couple of weeks. So plenty.
I could make a kind request to general managers, like the week before the draft, just don't make any trades.
Yeah, like
get all your trades done April 21.
Yeah.
And then just take 6 days off and do your scouting. Finish up your big boards.
Yeah.
Get your phones off the hook.
Do the trade now, as in right now, or don't do it till draft night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fuck us.
Just to help us out. I think the Minnesota Vikings are poised to fuck us. That's it from us. Go give us a follow as always. Spotify, Good Teams and Great Teams Cover, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We'll get some more clips out on the TikTok. I think that can be Byron's project to get some more ticks out on the clips out on the TikTok.
Let's do it quick as well before it's banned in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. So at GTW_GTC, and we'll catch you next week when we're joined by Beth. Adios, gents.
See you guys.